Welcome back to Who Died Today USA channel. In the past few days, we have received somber news about the passing of extraordinary talents. Today's episode is dedicated to honoring their memory. Additionally, we will recap the stars we have recently lost. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or the legacies of these remarkable individuals have touched your life, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you. The music world lost one of its most daring voices with the passing of Sly Stone. Born Sylvester Stewart in Texas and raised in California, Sly's dream was always bigger than boundaries. Through his groundbreaking group, Sly and the Family Stone, he fused rock, soul, funk, and psychedelic sounds into music that defied labels and built bridges. Songs like Everyday People and Thank You, Verlaten me be myself again, became anthems for unity in fractured times. Yet behind the vibrant performances stood a man at odds with himself. The price of fame, relentless expectations, and personal demons led Sly down a turbulent path. Addiction, isolation, and fragile health clouded much of his later years. But even in retreat, his influence shaped generations of artists, from Prince to Outkast, keeping his legacy alive in unexpected corners of music. On June 9, 2025, Sly Stone's earthly journey came to an end. He passed away peacefully at home in Granada Hills, Los Angeles, surrounded by those he loved most. After years of battling COPD and other health issues, his family shared, his music will continue to resonate, even though his voice has fallen silent. Sly Stone's story is one of brilliance and vulnerability. His life reminds us that even flawed souls can change the world with their truth. His melodies, wild, imperfect, and beautiful, still echo, urging us to see beyond differences, to dance, to dream, to believe in the possibility of unity. Irv Gotti's name will forever echo in the heart of hip-hop, a reminder of how far dreams can travel and how heavy they can weigh. For many of us who grew up watching the genre rise from the neighborhoods of Queens to global stages, Irv was more than a producer. He was the architect of a sound that blended raw honesty with irresistible melody. Born Irving Domingo Lorenzo Jr., he built Murder Inc. Records into an empire, amplifying voices that defined an era. With Ja Rule, Ashanti, and DMX, Irv crafted hits that didn't just dominate the charts, they lived in our cars, our parties, our heartbreaks, and our celebrations. Songs like Foolish, Always on Time, and I'm Real were the soundtrack to life for millions. But behind the success was a quieter story, one of resilience shadowed by pain. Irv battled diabetes for years, a fight he shared openly. The illness dimmed his strength but never his determination. Strokes weakened him further, yet his legacy kept building far beyond music, from shaping careers to creating stories on television through BET's Tales. On February 5, 2025, at just 54 years old, Irv Gotti passed away at home in Los Angeles, surrounded by family. Though his health finally failed him, his influence remains untouchable. His family's words say it best. Our father changed the game for artists and fans alike. His love and vision live on. As someone who witnessed his highs and lows, I remember Irv for more than his hits. I remember his grit, his flaws, his belief in lifting others up, even when life pulled him down. His music wasn't perfect, neither was he, and that's why it mattered. His story reminds us that greatness and struggle often share the same song, and that melody plays on. Peter Yarrow's songs were never just melodies. They were quiet prayers for a better world. On January 7, 2025, at his home on Manhattan's Upper West Side, that voice, gentle, defiant, and full of hope, was silenced. Peter Yarrow, the beloved member of the iconic folk trio Peter, Paul, and Mary, passed away at the age of 86 after a brave 4-year battle with bladder cancer. For those of us who grew up with his music, Peter was more than a performer. He was a symbol of the belief that music could heal divides. Alongside Mary Travers and Noel Paul Stookey, he gave life to songs like Puff the Magic Dragon, If I Had a Hammer, and Blowin' in the Wind. These songs became the soundtrack to marches for civil rights, protests against war, and the quiet, everyday struggles for dignity. On the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, during the 1963 March on Washington, Peter's voice rose with thousands, echoing a nation's yearning for justice. But Peter's life, like so many of ours, held contradictions. His personal failures, especially the 1969 incident that followed him for decades, reminded the world that even those who sing of hope can stumble. Yet, through public regret and reflection, Peter never stopped believing in the redemptive power of song. In his final years, surrounded by family, Peter continued to inspire. Through his work with Operation Respect, his performances with his daughter Bethany, and his unwavering belief that music, no matter how simple, can mend what is broken. Bethany's words capture the heart of his legacy. My father always believed that singing together could change the world. Please don't stop believing in magic dragons. And so, even as we mourn, we carry his songs and the hope they sow forward. Wink Martindale's voice carried more than words. It carried hope, excitement, and a sense of wonder that lit up millions of homes. On April 15, 2025, in Rancho Mirage, California, that voice grew silent. Wink, the beloved game show host and broadcaster, passed away at 91, leaving behind not just a career, but generations of joyful memories. For many of us, Wink was more than a television personality. He was the familiar face who brought laughter and possibility into our living rooms. From Tic-Tac-Dough to Gambit and Debt, his charisma and compassion made him unforgettable. With more than 20 shows under his belt, Wink's true gift was reminding us that everyday people could have their moment to shine. Born in Jackson, Tennessee, Wink's playful nickname became his lifelong signature. His early days in radio connected him to the heartbeat of music and culture, including a friendship with Elvis Presley. But his greatest stage was television, where his kindness, humor, and steady presence built trust with audiences across the country. In his final years, as he reflected on a life filled with stories, family, and milestones, Wink's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame stood as more than recognition. It symbolized decades of joy he shared with the world. His wife Sandra, his loved ones, and countless fans now carry forward his legacy. Though the lights may dim, the warmth Wink brought into our lives will never fade. Rick Derringer's guitar wasn't just an instrument. It was the sound of defiance, freedom, and raw American energy. On May 26, 2025, in Ormond Beach, Florida, the world lost that rebellious sound. Rick Derringer, the iconic rock musician behind Hang On Sloopy, Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo, and countless collaborations spanning 6 decades, passed away at 77. His longtime caretaker, Tony Wilson, confirmed the news. While no official cause of death was announced, Derringer had been battling health issues in recent months. Beneath the spotlight and the fame was a man utterly consumed by music. From his earliest days with a guitar at age 9, Derringer's love for sound never wavered. "I was blessed with the ability to play anything I heard," he once said, and his fingers translated that gift into unforgettable riffs, whether on sold-out stages or in quiet recording studios. For many, Derringer's breakthrough came as a teenager with the McCoys when Hang On Sloopy shot to number 1, won and became an enduring anthem for his home state of Ohio. Years later, his gritty vocals and searing guitar returned with Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo, a track that cemented his place in rock history and found new life in cult films and series like Dazed and Confused and Stranger Things. But his story was never confined to his own spotlight. Derringer's fingerprints graced iconic records from Steely Dan, Barbra Streisand, Johnny and Edgar Winter, and Cyndi Lauper. His anthem, Real American, written for Hulk Hogan, became an unlikely political soundtrack, echoing through rallies and even the halls of the White House. Yet through it all, Derringer remained loyal to the raw, untamed heart of rock and roll, a legacy that continues to resonate with every strum and every lyric left behind. On January 1st, 2025, Wayne Osmond's courageous journey came to an end after suffering a massive stroke. The beloved co-founder of the Osmonds passed away in Utah at the age of 73, leaving behind a legacy built on family, harmony, and resilience. His brother Merrill confirmed the heartbreaking news, describing Wayne as a man of humility, forgiveness, and pure love. From humble beginnings in Ogden, Utah, Wayne's musical roots ran deep. Singing alongside his brothers in a barbershop quartet, their talents soon blossomed into national fame when they became regulars on The Andy Williams Show in the 1960s. With Wayne on guitar and vocals, the Osmonds soared in the 1970s with hits like One Bad Apple, Yo-Yo, and Down by the Lazy River. Their sound, upbeat, wholesome, and full of heart, captured the spirit of a generation. Despite the fame, Wayne's path was marked by personal trials. In 1997, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Though he survived, the treatment left him with significant hearing loss, an unimaginable challenge for a musician. Yet Wayne's optimism never faded. "There's peace in silence," he once reflected, finding joy in the simple pleasures of life, like tending his garden, even when the music quieted. Tributes to Wayne have poured in from fans and family alike. His younger brother Donnie shared, "Wayne brought light, laughter, and love to everyone he met. He was the ultimate optimist." Wayne is survived by his wife of 50 years, Kathleen, their 5 children, and his siblings, including Donnie and Marie. Though his voice may have fallen silent, his music and kindness live on, a reminder that harmony isn't just found in song, but in how we love, forgive, and lift one another. What does it truly mean to be a soul man? For Sam Moore, it was never just a song. It was a way of life, a calling carried through every note, every performance, and every hardship. On January 10th, 2025, the world bid farewell to that unmistakable voice. Sam Moore, one half of the legendary duo Sam and Dave, passed away at the age of 89 in Coral Gables, Florida, after complications while recovering from surgery. Though his physical voice has quieted, his sound, raw, powerful, and filled with spirit, remains eternal. Born in Miami in 1935, Moore's journey from church pews to global stages defined an era. Alongside his partner Dave Prater, Sam and Dave ignited a revolution in soul music. Hits like Hold On, I'm Comin', Soul Man, and I Thank You weren't just songs. They were anthems of hope, resilience, and unity, powered by gospel roots and electrifying performances. Their music, backed by the mighty Stax Records, Booker T and the MGs, and the Memphis Horns, became the heartbeat of a turbulent yet hopeful America. Behind the spotlight, Moore's life held both triumph and hardship. He overcame a devastating struggle with addiction, finding strength in love and redemption, guided by his wife, Joyce McRae. Moore later became a fierce advocate for recovery, artist rights, and authenticity in music. His unmistakable voice graced collaborations with Bruce Springsteen, Sting, and even U.S. presidents, proving that his gift transcended generations. Sam Moore was the greatest living soul singer on the planet, Springsteen once declared. Words that echoed across every stage Sam graced. Sam leaves behind not only a remarkable catalog, but a legacy built on heart, faith, and resilience. He is survived by his wife Joyce, daughter Michelle, and grandchildren Tash and Misha. The man who taught the world what it meant to be a soul man may be gone, but his music still lifts us, a reminder that true soul never fades. The sound of Alice Tan Ridley's voice was never just music. It was hope echoing through subway tunnels, lifting strangers on their hardest days. On March 25, 2025, that voice was silenced as Alice passed away in New York City at the age of 72. Her family, including her daughter, Oscar-nominated actress Gabourey Sidibe, confirmed the heartbreaking news, though no cause of death has been shared. The city she loved, the same city that heard her sing beneath its streets for decades, now mourns her absence. Born in Lumpkin, Georgia, in 1952, Alice's life was steeped in music and determination. After becoming a teacher, she moved to New York, raising her children and nurturing her voice in subway stations and on street corners. Commuters at Herald Square often paused their busy lives, transfixed by her soulful renditions of "I Will Survive" and "I Will Always Love You." Her voice told stories of heartbreak, perseverance, and joy, the same qualities that defined her own journey. In 2010, Alice's talent reached millions when she auditioned for America's Got Talent at age 58. Her powerful cover of "At Last" left judges stunned, with Sharon Osbourne wondering aloud how such a gift could have gone unnoticed for so long. Alice's journey to the semi-finals was more than a competition. It was a victory for every late bloomer, every dreamer still waiting for their moment. Her debut album, Never Lost My Way, released in 2016, carried that same message of resilience. Though dementia slowed her steps in later years, Alice Tan Ridley's spirit never faded. Her voice, once a hidden gem in the subway, became a symbol of courage and authenticity. She is survived by her children, grandchildren, siblings, and a city that remembers her not just as Gabourey Sidibe's mother, but as a true, unwavering soul singer who never lost her way and never stopped believing in her song. What does it mean to redefine music, defy labels, and live unapologetically loud? For David Johansen, it meant a lifetime of turning rebellion into poetry. On February 28, 2025, Johansen, the electrifying frontman of the New York Dolls and the voice behind Buster Poindexter, passed away at home on Staten Island, holding the hands of his wife, Mara, and daughter, Leah. He was 75. His family shared that his final years were marked by courage, battling stage 4 cancer, a brain tumor, and a broken back, yet never losing his humor, defiance, or love for music. Born in 1950, Johansen carried the raw spirit of Staten Island into downtown Manhattan, where the New York Dolls ignited a cultural explosion in the 1970s. Their sound, raucous, glitter-streaked, unapologetically androgynous, gave punk its first heartbeat. They were trashy, flashy, and genius, Johansen later reflected, realizing the Dolls weren't just chaos, they were art. With songs like Personality Crisis and Trash, they championed the misfits, the dreamers, the outsiders who dared to rewrite the rules of rock and roll. Yet Johansen was never content with one identity. Shedding leather and eyeliner, he reinvented himself as Buster Poindexter, the witty lounge lizard crooning "Hot, Hot, Hot" across smoky clubs and late-night television. Some called it ironic, but for Johansen, it was liberation. "Buster was more me than David ever was," he quipped, embracing every layer of his eccentric legacy. He acted in films like Scrooged, collaborated with icons from Morrissey to Martin Scorsese, and curated eclectic radio shows that revealed his vast love for music beyond labels. As the last surviving original member of the Dolls, Johansen's passing closes a fierce, flamboyant chapter in rock history. But his spirit, that irreverent, unfiltered, magnetic energy, lives on in every song, every stage dive, every outsider who dares to believe that art is rebellion. As his family shared, he knew he was ecstatically loved, and New York, the Dolls, and generations of musicians will never stop loving him back. Johnny Tillotson, the voice that carried so many of us through the tender moments of youth, has left this world. The beloved singer of Poetry in Motion passed away peacefully on April 1st, 2025, at the age of 86, following complications from Parkinsonism. His wife of 45 years, Nancy, confirmed the news, describing him as the sweetest, kindest man I ever met, and the champion of my realm. For those of us who grew up with the radio humming softly in the background, Johnny's songs weren't just melodies, they were part of life's soundtrack. From his chart-topping hit, Poetry in Motion, which soared to number 1, 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, to the aching beauty of It Keeps Right on a Hurtin', his music spoke to young hearts finding their way. That song, later covered by legends like Elvis Presley and Dean Martin, earned Johnny his first Grammy nomination, a testament to his timeless artistry. But beyond the fame, Johnny Tillotson remained grounded, a true gentleman who never forgot the people who lifted him to stardom. As Nancy shared in her heartfelt tribute, he loved and was grateful to his fans. They made every dream he ever had come true. Even in his final days, his love for music endured, releasing Everything I Touch Turns to Blue, one more gift for those of us still listening. Today, his family, his wife Nancy, his children and grandchildren carry his legacy forward. For the rest of us, we'll keep hearing that gentle voice in our memories, singing of love, heartache, and hope. And though he may be gone, Johnny Tillotson's songs and the sincerity behind them will always linger, like poetry in motion itself. Mike Peters, the resilient voice behind the alarm and a beacon of hope for countless cancer warriors, has passed away at 66. The Welsh frontman, known for his rousing anthems like 68 Guns and The Stand, spent over 3 decades not only battling cancer, but inspiring millions with his courage, music, and relentless spirit. Diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1995, and later facing chronic lymphocytic leukemia twice, Peters never allowed his illness to silence him. Even as his health faltered, his voice echoed through sold-out shows, mountaintop concerts, and hospital wards. His wife of nearly 40 years, Jules, who bravely faced her own battle with cancer, stood by his side through every storm. "Stay alive and appreciate every second you've got," Peters once told Guitar World, words that defined his life both on and off stage. Peters led the Alarm to international acclaim in the 1980s, fusing punk energy with heartfelt activism. Their music, packed with raw emotion and defiant optimism, became anthems for a generation craving hope. Yet, it was his tireless work off stage that deepened his legacy. Alongside Jules, he co-founded the Love Hope Strength Foundation, leading bone marrow drives and organizing concerts on Mount Everest and Kilimanjaro, turning music into a force for healing. Even after his cancer returned last year, Peters faced it with dignity and determination, entering advanced therapy while still finding strength to sing, to fight, to live. His passing, announced by his family and foundation, marks the end of an era, but not the silencing of his message. Mike Peters leaves behind Jules, their sons Dylan and Evan, and a global community forever changed by his music and courage. From festival stages to hospital corridors, his words will resonate. live right up to the last breath. And indeed, he did. Clem Burke, the driving force behind Blondie's iconic sound, has passed away at the age of 70, following a courageous, private battle with cancer. His death, announced by the band in April 2025, has left an irreplaceable void in both the music world and the hearts of those who knew him. Clem was not just a drummer, he was the heartbeat of Blondie, the band wrote, paying tribute to the man whose passion, talent, and spirit fueled decades of groundbreaking music. For Debbie Harry, Blondie's legendary frontwoman, the loss is deeply personal and marks the end of an era. Speaking to Vanity Fair, she confessed, "With Clem's passing, and without Chris Stein on stage, I can't see myself being on stage as Blondie, even though I am the face of Blondie." The sentiment captures the extraordinary bond that carried the band from New York's gritty punk beginnings to global stardom, with Clem's electrifying drumming at its core. Burke's journey began with raw determination, a teenager expelled from his school orchestra for playing too loud, only to later answer a Village Voice ad seeking freak energy. That rebellious spirit would define Blondie, propelling them to fame with genre-defying hits like Heart of Glass, Call Me, and The Tide is High. His rapid-fire drumming on Dreaming remains etched in rock history, a symbol of Blondie's fearless innovation. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006, Clem Burke leaves behind more than records and awards. He leaves behind a legacy of resilience, creativity, and joy. His vibrant spirit, infectious enthusiasm, and rock-solid work ethic touched everyone privileged to know him, Blondie shared. Though the stage may now fall silent, Clem Burke's rhythm continues to echo, timeless, fierce, and full of life. Joey Molland, the last surviving core member of Badfinger and a beloved figure in classic rock, has passed away at the age of 77. Surrounded by his family, Joey died peacefully on Saturday night after months of battling multiple health issues, including pneumonia, a severe bacterial infection, and complications from diabetes. His passing marks the closing chapter of a remarkable, yet often tragic, rock legacy. As the Liverpool-born guitarist who joined Badfinger in 1969, Molland helped craft the band's signature sound, one deeply rooted in melodic rock and heartbreak. From chart-topping hits like Day After Day and Baby Blue to the enduring No Matter What, Joey's guitar work and songwriting left an indelible mark. Signed to the Beatles' Apple Records, Badfinger was heralded as the next great British band, and Joey's work alongside Pete Ham, Tom Evans, and Mike Gibbons shaped their finest moments. His contributions extended beyond Badfinger, lending his talents to George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, John Lennon's Imagine, and the iconic Concert for Bangladesh. Yet Joey's journey was never without sorrow. The devastating losses of his bandmates Pete Ham and Tom Evans, both to suicide, cast a long shadow over Badfinger's history. Still, Molland carried the torch with grace, performing tirelessly under the name Joey Molland's Badfinger, and keeping the music alive for fans around the world. Badfinger gave me everything I dreamed of, making records, hearing my songs on the radio, touring the world, he once reflected. I choose to remember the music, the people, and the good times. In his passing, the rock community bids farewell to a resilient spirit, a gifted musician, and a man whose music continues to resonate, reminding us that even amidst heartbreak, the songs and the memories live on. Les Binks, the celebrated drummer who helped shape Judas Priest's defining sound in the late 1970s, has passed away at the age of 73. He died peacefully at a hospital in London on March 15th, surrounded by loved ones. Though his time with Judas Priest was brief, Binks left a lasting imprint on the heavy metal world. his technical brilliance and speed earning him praise from fans and musicians alike. Born in Northern Ireland in 1951, Binks began drumming as a child, his passion leading him to work with legends like Eric Burdon, Fancy, and Deep Purple's Roger Glover. It was Glover who introduced him to Judas Priest in 1977, marking the start of Binks' most influential chapter. His thunderous double bass work powered albums like Stained Class and Killing Machine, as well as the live classic Unleashed in the East, with his rhythms immortalized on hits like Take on the World and Beyond the Realms of Death, the latter of which he co-wrote. Despite parting ways with the band in 1979 due to management disputes, Binks never harbored ill will toward his bandmates, stating, "We shared the same musical direction and goals. I left because of the con man managing the band." He remained active in music for decades, performing Judas Priest classics with his band Les Binks Priesthood and reuniting with his former bandmates in 2022 for their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, his first time on stage with them in 43 years. Judas Priest paid tribute to him, writing, "The acclaimed drumming he provided was first class, demonstrating unique techniques, flair, style, and precision. Your acclaim will live on, Les." His legacy echoes through every thunderous riff and pounding rhythm that inspired generations of rock and metal. Renee Victor, the unforgettable voice of Abuelita in Pixar's Coco and the sharp-witted Lupita on Weeds, has passed away at age 86. She died peacefully at her home in Sherman Oaks, California, surrounded by her family, after a courageous battle with lymphoma, her daughters confirmed. Her passing marks the end of a remarkable life that spanned music, dance, and decades of screen work that left a lasting impact. Born in San Antonio, Texas, in 1938, Renee began her artistic journey as a singer and dancer, performing with Latin music icons like Xavier Cugat and Perez Prado. With her husband Ray, she toured the world as the duo Ray and Renee, captivating audiences with their charm and rhythm, earning them fame from Los Angeles to Australia. Her love for performance extended beyond the stage. By the 1970s, she was a proud voice for her community, hosting KTLA's Pacey Setters, highlighting the Chicano power movement. Though her television credits spanned classics like ER, Matlock, and The Addams Family, it was her role as the fierce, sandal-wielding grandmother in Coco that won hearts globally. Pixar paid tribute, writing, "We are heartbroken by Renee Victor's passing. Her voice brought Abuelita to life and will forever echo in our family." Renee often joked about her character, saying, "I'm the chancla-throwing grandma who says, 'No music,' but Coco will play in homes forever." Even in her final years, Renee continued to inspire, with appearances in Snowpiercer, Mayans MC, Dead to Me, and With Love. Her daughters, Raquel and Margot, remember her not only as a talented performer, but as a beloved mother whose warmth and legacy will live on. She was loved by so many, they shared. Her memory will be cherished by all who knew her. Daniel Williams, former drummer for the acclaimed metalcore band The Devil Wears Prada, has tragically passed away at the age of 38 following a devastating plane crash in San Diego. The tragedy occurred on May 22, 2025, marking exactly 14 years since he began his life journey with his fiancée, Hannah Ray, deepening the heartbreak for those left behind. The small private jet carrying Williams and 5 others crashed near Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport in the early morning hours, igniting fires across the neighborhood and damaging several homes. Hours before the fatal incident, Williams had shared photos from the cockpit, unaware of the fate awaiting him. Having recently transitioned from his music career to a new role as a software engineer at Apple, Williams was beginning an exciting new chapter. In a deeply moving tribute, Hannah Ray described Williams as my best friend, partner, fiancé, and the most supportive soul I've ever known. Her words reflected the profound grief of losing the person who shared her life for over a decade. My entire world is in shambles. I can't imagine life without you. Friends and fans flooded social media with tributes, remembering his passion, kindness, and talent. Williams, who performed with The Devil Wears Prada from 2005 to 2016, left an undeniable mark on the metalcore scene. His bandmates honored him with a heartfelt message. "We owe you everything. Love you forever." His legacy will endure through his music, the lives he touched, and the love that defined his journey. David Thomas, the fiercely independent voice behind the groundbreaking band Pere Ubu, has passed away at the age of 71, leaving behind one of the most defiant legacies in underground music. Surrounded by his wife and stepdaughter, Thomas died peacefully at his home in Brighton and Hove, England, with the music of MC5 playing, a fitting soundtrack for a life lived on his own radical terms. From his beginnings in Cleveland to the world stage, Thomas refused to conform. As the leader of Pere Ubu, he rejected musical trends, forging an unorthodox path through experimental rock, post-punk, and avant-garde soundscapes. With his signature voice, by turns fragile, furious, and eerily poetic, Thomas challenged expectations, inspiring artists from the Pixies to generations of outsiders. "We don't change, the world changes," he famously declared, capturing the restless spirit that defined his nearly 5-decade career. Despite battling kidney disease in his later years, Thomas never slowed down. He was recording what he called his final album, preparing an autobiography, and organizing archives of live performances. Across 32 studio albums, operas, books, and experimental projects, he relentlessly pushed music beyond its limits, earning quiet reverence from fellow musicians and fans alike. In a heartfelt tribute, Pere Ubu confirmed Thomas will be returned to his family's Pennsylvania farm, where he had insisted with his typical irreverence, "I'm to be thrown in the barn." His parting words echo his fierce humor and pride. "My name is David fucking Thomas, and I'm the lead singer of the best fucking rock and roll band in the world." His voice may have fallen silent, but his defiant artistry will resonate for generations to come. The music world is mourning the loss of a truly irreplaceable spirit. Michael Sumler, affectionately known as Chicago Mike, passed away at the age of 71 in a tragic car accident in Mableton, Georgia on May 25th. His boundless energy, warmth, and undeniable charm made him more than a performer. He was part of the heartbeat behind Kool and the Gang's legacy. Sumler's journey with Kool and the Gang began in 1985, after fate stepped in at a Chicago nightclub. A member of the band's security team spotted Mike performing with his local group, Power Pack, and knew instantly he belonged with the legendary R&B act. Starting as a stylist and choreographer, Mike's infectious stage presence quickly elevated him to hype man, vocalist, and an essential part of the show. Mike didn't just make sure we looked sharp, he made sure every crowd felt the joy Kool and the Gang shared. Michael Cooper of Con Funk. Shun added, "We didn't know Sunday night's performance would be his last ride." Mike's spirit lit up every stage. For decades, Kool and the Gang's anthems like Ladies' Night, Get Down on It, and Celebration brought people together. But it was the dedication of people like Michael Sumler that kept the magic alive. His smile, his moves, and his heart will never be forgotten. The stage may be dimmer now, but his legacy will dance on forever. Larry Bastian, the beloved songwriter whose words helped shape the very heart of country music, has passed away at the age of 90. Surrounded by family in his native California, Larry left this world on April 6th, leaving behind a legacy of songs that speak to life's most honest moments: love, loss, gratitude, and the lessons that only time can teach. Born in Porterville, California, Larry's roots were planted firmly in the soil of small-town life. Before music came calling, he spent years working for the Department of Agriculture, raising his children with the same values he carried his whole life: simplicity, integrity, and love of the land. But his true gift lay in storytelling, and in the 1970s, he found his calling as a songwriter, penning hits for country greats like Tammy Wynette, Reba McEntire, Willie Nelson, and Conway Twitty. Perhaps his most cherished contribution came through his collaboration with Garth Brooks. It was Larry who inspired the unforgettable line from Unanswered Prayers, a song that has comforted millions. Brooks, remembering their time together, called him a cowboy, a poet, and a true friend, adding, "Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. Larry taught me that." For many, those words became a reminder that life's detours often lead to its greatest blessings. Though never seeking fame himself, Larry's influence echoes across over 68 platinum albums and countless country classics. His songs, including Rodeo and Forever's Here to Stay, captured the raw, unfiltered spirit of country life. His son, Nick, paying tribute, said, "He let us be boys, taught us to live free, and now we raise our own that way." As the music plays on, so does the memory of Larry Bastian, a quiet craftsman, a loving father, and the soul behind some of country music's most timeless words. Charles Strouse, the legendary composer whose melodies helped define generations of theater and music lovers, has passed away at the age of 96 at his home in Manhattan. His timeless contributions to Broadway, film, and television created soundtracks to some of life's most joyful, humorous, and heartfelt moments, earning him 3 Tony Awards, a Grammy, and an Emmy over an extraordinary career. Born and raised in New York City, Strauss's journey began with classical ambitions, studying under icons like Aaron Copland and Nadia Boulanger. Yet fate steered him toward Broadway, where he created unforgettable scores for shows like Bye Bye Birdie, Applause, and the global sensation Annie. Songs such as Tomorrow and It's the Hard Knock Life became anthems of resilience and hope, even inspiring modern artists like Jay-Z. Despite his success, Strauss never lost sight of music's deeper purpose. To make someone forget illness and suffering is also a calling, his teacher once told him, words that would guide his life's work. Beyond Broadway, his music graced films like Bonnie and Clyde and animated classics such as All Dogs Go to Heaven, while his tune Those Were the Days became the theme for the iconic TV series All in the Family. Charles Strauss's legacy is stitched into the fabric of American culture, from sold-out theaters to family living rooms, from grand stages to the simple joy of humming a favorite tune. His children, grandchildren, and the countless lives touched by his music will carry his spirit forward. As his most famous lyric reminds us, "The sun'll come out tomorrow, but today, the world bids farewell to a true musical genius." She was born in Charlemagne, a quiet riverside town in Quebec, where the air was always thick with music and the warmth of a crowded family home. Celine Marie Claudette Dion was the youngest of 14 children, growing up not in luxury, but in harmony. Her parents, who owned a modest bar called Le Vieux Baril, would turn its stage into a family jam session by night. And beneath the piano, nestled in a guitar case, little Celine would fall asleep to the sound of her siblings' voices blending into the night. But first, how do you feel about Celine Dion? On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate her contributions to the entertainment industry? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like and share this video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our exciting stories. By the age of 5, she was already matching their harmonies. By 8, she could carry the melody on her own. Her first real performance came at her brother Michel's wedding, where she delivered a crystal-clear rendition of a Jeanette Reno classic that left the room in awe. "It felt like oxygen in my lungs," she later recalled. That moment didn't just light up the room, it ignited a destiny. At just 12 years old, Celine recorded a homemade demo with her mother and brother Jacques and mailed it to a music manager in Montreal named Renee Victor. What he heard was so extraordinary that he mortgaged his own house just to fund her first album. Under Renee's mentorship, she began to master diction, breath control, and stage presence, even while still doing her schoolwork at night. Her talent quickly caught fire across Quebec television. At only 13, she stunned international judges by winning the Yamaha World Popular Song Festival in Tokyo, singing in a language they didn't even understand. It was a breakthrough. Soon, gold records came from France. Then, in 1988, she represented Switzerland and won the Eurovision Song Contest with Ne partez pas sans moi. Overnight, the shy girl from a small town became the new voice of francophone pop across Europe. But she never forgot her roots. Between shows, she'd fly back home to help serve sodas behind the family bar. "Applause is a gift," she would later say, "not a guarantee." Then came the bigger dream, the English-speaking world. Celine began intensive pronunciation training in Florida, preparing for her first English album, Unison. When Where Does My Heart Beat Now broke into the US top 10, it was clear her voice had crossed borders. And something else was quietly changing. Her relationship with Renee, once strictly professional, had begun to grow into something far deeper. In 1993, with the release of The Color of My Love, Celine Dion entered the golden age of her career. The Power of Love didn't just top the charts in America, the UK, and Australia. It became the anthem of a generation in love. Weddings, graduations, heartbreaks, reunions, her voice was there, holding every fragile moment in perfect pitch. On stage, she was radiant, a queen in motion, charming, yet commanding. Her performances shimmered with lasers, yet it was her voice that pierced through, not just powerful, but pure. She made stadiums feel like sanctuaries, but behind the lights, Celine remained the same humble girl from Quebec. She shared her homemade tourtière with stage crew and called her mother every night. Childhood lessons, rise early, rehearse hard, and respect the music, remained the compass that guided her soul. In 1996, she released Falling Into You, a bold mix of classical pop, Latin rhythms, and rock guitars. Critics predicted it would be too ambitious. They were wrong. The album exploded, 32 million copies sold, Grammy for Album of the Year, and a string of hits. Because You Loved Me, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, and the soaring title track. Her music became emotional Swiss Army knives, ready for love, loss, or longing at a moment's notice. She was more than just a voice. Celine was a phenomenon. Her vocal clarity, able to hit a high F without strain, left even hardened vocal coaches amazed. Producers loved her too. One take was often enough. She moved effortlessly between powerhouse ballads and soft a cappella, proving that true emotion isn't always about volume, but vulnerability. Then came Titanic. When director James Cameron needed a closing theme, composer James Horner already had an instrumental, but quietly envisioned something more. He asked Celine to try a demo of My Heart Will Go On. What came out of that studio session became a cultural earthquake. The song rocketed to #1 in 25 countries. It sold over 18 million copies. And Celine's voice became forever tied to a film about love, fate, and farewell. At the Oscars, she stepped onto the stage in a cream-white tuxedo, worn backwards, and sang with such grace that the world held its breath. The flutter of the flute intro still gives goosebumps. Her live renditions added extra codas, allowing audiences to hold on to the moment just a little longer. Even security guards backstage were seen wiping away tears. And then, she stopped. At the peak of her fame, Celine made a decision that stunned the industry. She paused her tour, citing exhaustion. But behind the scenes, a more painful truth had emerged. Renee, her husband, mentor, and anchor, had been diagnosed with throat cancer. While the world speculated, she fought quietly. Hospital visits became routine. Fertility treatments began. And then, joy. On January 25, 2001, Celine gave birth to René Charles, their first son. A new kind of love filled her life. She traded sound checks for lullabies, dressing rooms for nurseries. Even during her hiatus, she kept listening, studying new production trends, thinking ahead. When asked if she was retiring, she simply smiled and said, "I'm pausing, not quitting. The next chapter needs new inspiration." Just when people thought Celine Dion had already reached her peak, she took a turn no one saw coming. And in doing so, she changed the rules of live entertainment forever. In 2003, she returned to the spotlight with a new day. A groundbreaking residency in Las Vegas, in partnership with Franco Dragone, the creative force behind Cirque du Soleil. At the time, Vegas residencies were considered a graceful exit for fading stars. But Celine didn't settle into nostalgia. She built an empire. She didn't just take a stage, she had one built for her. A 4,000-seat theater at Caesar's Palace, custom designed to house her vision. Every night, the space transformed into a living dream. 4-story LED walls, aerial dancers, holographic storms, and at the center of it all, that voice. The show wasn't just a performance, it was a cinematic ritual, an emotional experience, a masterclass in presence. The residency sold over 3 million tickets across 717 shows, grossing more than $400 million. It redefined Las Vegas as a destination not for washed-up acts, but for enduring legends. Pop icons from Elton John to Britney Spears would later follow her lead. But behind the spectacle was sweat. Celine rehearsed for hours each day, chasing perfection even after critics had already called it flawless. She often stayed on stage long after the crew left, adjusting a breath here, a gesture there, not because she wasn't good enough, but because she believed her audience deserved the best she could possibly give. And then, the cost began to show. Her vocal cords, so famously elastic, started to rebel. She was diagnosed with severe laryngitis and vocal fold swelling, forcing her to cancel over 30 shows and enter 3 weeks of complete silence. She communicated with Renee using only notepads and gestures, but in that quiet, she found something powerful. "Silence," she later said, "taught me that a whisper can sometimes speak louder than a scream." When she returned to the studio, her voice had changed, softer, wiser. On A New Day Has Come, her vocal phrasing took on a gentle, almost spiritual quality, proof that strength doesn't always roar. Still, her body lived on the edge. Transatlantic flights, postpartum fatigue, nightly performances packed with choreography, it was a relentless rhythm. To keep going, she began living like an athlete. Her nutritionists developed high-protein diets. Physical therapists strengthened her core to support breath control. Meditation coaches trained her to lower adrenaline spikes. And as always, she followed everything with near-obsessive discipline. For Celine, taking care of herself wasn't vanity. It was her responsibility. "People fly thousands of miles and spend their savings to hear me sing," she said. "They deserve all of me." But even the best-prepared voice has its limits. Soon, she began to hear a strange echo in her own ears, diagnosed as patulous eustachian tube, a condition that distorts sound perception. Surgery followed. But the dry desert air of Las Vegas triggered frequent sinus infections. Celine endured nightly saline treatments and vocal therapy, tracking each tiny improvement like a scientist. When tabloids questioned whether her voice was fading, she didn't answer with statements. She answered with persistence. From that point on, every time she stepped on stage was a quiet triumph. Warm-ups were timed to the second. Custom in-ear monitors protected her eardrums. And before every show, there was always a whispered prayer that her instrument, as she now called her voice, would make it through one more night. Behind the spotlight, Celine Dion came to understand a truth that most never speak aloud. Even the brightest stage lights cast long shadows. While her voice continued to echo through arenas around the world, sorrow was quietly making its way into her life. In 2003, her beloved father, Adhemar Dion, passed away after a long illness. That night, Celine still performed in Las Vegas. Her eyes red, her voice trembling, she ended the show with S'il suffisait d'aimer, a soft farewell, whispered into the silence. Then she boarded a flight home to Quebec to bury her father. The woman who once moved millions to tears now had to learn how to hold together the pieces of her own heart. A decade later, grief knocked again. Renee, her manager, her partner, her great love, was diagnosed with cancer for the second time. This time, it hit harder. The man who once stood just off stage, guiding her with strength and pride, now lay behind the scenes in a hospital bed. Celine transformed her dressing room at Caesar's Palace into a care unit. Between performances, she sat by his side. Their children, Renee Charles and the twins, Nelson and Eddie, gathered around his bed to hear bedtime stories whispered in his fading breath. Even after losing 2 loved ones in just 3 days, she never let the light in her eyes go out. On January 14, 2016, Renee passed away at age 73. Just 2 days later, Celine's brother Daniel also succumbed to cancer. 2 devastating losses within 3 days. News anchors struggled for words, fans mourned. And Celine? She stood back up. 13 days after the funeral, she returned to the stage. She sang all by myself, her voice shaken, her soul exposed. Not as a star, but as a widow, a sister, a daughter, and a mother carrying unimaginable pain. The audience didn't clap. They just raised their phones, tiny lights glowing like candles in a shared moment of silent solidarity. Then she was struck once more. In 2020, her mother, Thérèse, who had once helped write the demo that launched her career, passed away at 92. It happened just weeks before the world locked down in a global pandemic. Celine grieved alone, the isolation only deepening the weight of loss. But instead of collapsing, she turned her pain into purpose. She returned to her roots, practicing vocal exercises on Zoom, doing Pilates, and writing lyrics as a form of therapy. Memory became melody. Loss became language. She told her band, "Every note I sing is a torch I carry for those who no longer can." Each time she fell, she rose, not with the power of her voice, but with the strength of her heart. That strength didn't just fuel her music, it reached others. She launched Soutenir pour Espoir, a foundation funding end-of-life care centers across Quebec so that other families could say goodbye with dignity. When meeting fans, she didn't just sign autographs. She listened to their losses, their stories, their brokenness. She became a vessel not just for songs, but for healing. These losses shaped a new Celine. Softer, deeper, more human than ever before. From the stage, she still sparkled. But look closely, and you'd see a woman who had walked through fire and came back with a song. With volunteers, turning gratitude into action, and always, always rehearsing. With volunteers, turning gratitude into action, and always, always rehearsing. Even when she's not on stage, Celine Dion's presence lingers, like a note that continues to resonate long after the music stops. She may be away from the spotlight, but her voice still moves through the world, not just in song, but in impact. Her absence isn't silence, its evolution. It's a legacy in motion. Streaming platforms still register over 30 million plays of her songs every week. Gen Z creators splice My Heart Will Go On into graduation videos, heartbreak skits, or comedic reels, introducing her voice to a new era in their own language. Her music is showing up everywhere, in games, in TV dramas, in the background of life's most emotional moments. Licensing teams quietly continue her reach, sinking her classics into places she's never even stepped. And in classrooms, from Nashville to Berkeley, vocal coaches are still citing her. The way she rounds her vowels, the way she anchors breath in her diaphragm. Her Zoom masterclass in 2023 shattered attendance records. On Broadway, her belting techniques are now considered foundational. Celine didn't just change pop, she rewrote the anatomy of performance itself. Behind the scenes, more projects bloom. Amazon MGM is producing a limited series about her early life in Quebec, personally overseen by Celine, who insists the actors speak fluent French to honor her roots. She's also voiced lullabies for a children's animated special, Courage the Hummingbird, with all proceeds funding pediatric neurology research. Her signature perfume line is being relaunched, this time with vegan ingredients and recyclable glass, tied to her sustainability pledge at the UN Climate Summit. In Montreal, engineers are designing an immersive museum exhibit where fans can conduct a holographic orchestra alongside her, learning how pitch manipulates emotion. One reviewer described it as stepping inside a chord. But perhaps her most personal creation is an audio-first memoir, developed for Apple's Spatial Sound Library. It won't be divided by chapters, but by notes. A flat for lullabies, E natural for My Heart Will Go On, C sharp for grief. Each passage is recorded in 3 languages across multiple microphone arrays, creating an experience so intimate it feels like you're inside her voice. All proceeds fund a scholarship program at the Montreal Neurological Institute, dedicated to research at the intersection of music and autoimmune science. Because Celine doesn't just believe in healing through sound, she's proving it. And she's not done yet. She's launching the Resonance Initiative, a hybrid performance and education tour. Each show will open with a minimalist concert at 432 Hz, a frequency designed to reduce neurological stress, followed by live science demonstrations that explain the physical mechanisms behind every breath, every phrase. Audience members will wear haptic wristbands that pulse in sync with her diaphragm, turning a concert into a lesson in human resilience. A companion app will allow fans at home to toggle between camera angles or watch real-time endoscopic footage of her vocal folds, because only Celine could make throat anatomy beautiful. Meanwhile, her newest initiative, Cœur Viva, is bringing mobile health clinics to rural Quebec, complete with recording booths, free Wi-Fi, and solar-powered mini-stages where kids can lay down tracks and write lyrics, mentored by artists Celine once supported, including The Weeknd and Charlotte Cardin. She even pushed a bill through Canada's Senate, cutting rare drug approval wait times by 30% after relentless bilingual Zoom lobbying sessions backed by patient stories and data. She's even experimenting with AI, not to replace herself, but to explore melodies shaped by her unique vowel resonance. Every night in her climate-neutral Laval studio, she still plays the final chords of My Heart Will Go On a Yamaha Grand. A quiet ritual, a private hymn, a reminder that the most powerful part of any song is what comes after. Celine Dion is no longer just the voice. She is the architect of a new artistic legacy, one built not on high notes, but on heartbeats. When she returns, and she will, it may not be in glitter and spotlight. It might be through a screen, or a sound wave, or a whisper. But when she does, we'll know. Because it won't be just a performance. It will be a message. That fragility is another octave. That silence is still music. And that yes, the heart does go on.